When God came to the garden at the end of the day, he was out doing his chores. He was down the supermarket. He was thinking of going to the pub in the evening, but he decided to come back to the garden and check on Adam and Eve instead. It's like, I feel like they've been up to something. Hello, lovely people. My name is Emma. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. I hope you're sitting comfortably because today I would like to tell you a story. A hot minute ago, like before I even moved house, minute ago, I'm so sorry, I got a really lovely letter from ST, which included this very tiny book about Adam and Eve that she thought that I might enjoy sharing. It's been on my to-do list for so long, I'm so sorry, but today is the day. This is from a whole collection, by the way. Collect a Bible story. Read the story and use your stickers again and again. Build your own collection of Bible stories. You know how I love indoctrinating children. I won't lie, I love the art. The art style, super cute. I love Quentin Blake. It's kind of a little bit like knockoff Quentin Blake, but I mean, look at the lion on the front cover. That's fucking cute, whoever you are. So today we are going to discover the story of Adam and Eve. One of my favourite absurdities that people in 2022, oh my god. One of my favourite stories that people in 2022 still believe is factually accurate. People still believe that Genesis is true and Adam and Eve were real people that we're all incestuously descended from. And they're teaching that to children. Here we go. Adam and Eve. There's something weirdly like sexual about how they're always, like, their nudity is always just hidden behind a bush. It's kind of weird, right? Like they're always just sort of naked behind a... Like, ooh, that makes me laugh. Maybe that's just me. In the beginning, when the world was new, God made a beautiful garden for the people he'd made. It was full of wonderful trees. This is already biblically incorrect. It was full of wonderful trees and plants. Adam and Eve had everything they needed. This is immediately biblically incorrect. So according to this story, God made Adam and Eve and then the garden for them? Learn your Bible, tamarind books. So we're in the garden. There's loads of lovely little critters. They're all living in harmony. There's fruit trees. There were amazing animals, bright butterflies, and fabulous fishes. Animals, butterflies, and fishes. Those are all animals! God gave Adam the job of thinking up the names for all his creatures. He also told Adam and Eve didn't exist at this point, by the way. God told Adam to name all the creatures. Okay, there's different accounts. There's different accounts depending on what you believe and where you get your information from, but either Adam named all the creatures and then God was like, they've all got buddies. Adam needs somebody. Alternatively, God tried to pair Adam off with some of the animals and they weren't good enough, and then he made Lilith, and that's another fascinating story for another time. So for now, for some reason in this fictitious world of the Bible, Adam and Eve both exist and Adam's now naming the animals. If I was actually a biblical literalist, and I bought this book for my children, I'd be annoyed because it's wrong. God gave Adam the job of thinking up names for all his creatures. He also told Adam and Eve that it was their job to look after the world he made. Eve's just having an absolute whale of a time, while Adam is like, what the fuck am I gonna call this thing? He was probably there for hours just like saying words. Adam and Eve were very happy in God's beautiful garden. They could go wherever they wanted and, best of all, they talked with God every day. They were God's special friends. God's special friends who he made specifically designed not to notice that they were naked so they could be nude and talk to him every day. He made them in his image. I'm just saying, I think we might be playing out some sort of sexual fantasy of God's right here. You're free to eat the fruit of any tree in the garden, said God. Except this tree. You must not eat from it. It is very special. It is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Let's not even get into why the hell did God create this tree, put it in the garden, birth these humans with temptation, and then tell them not to. You must always be good, but you are not allowed the knowledge of being good. You're not allowed to know what goodness is. You just have to listen to what I say. But lurking in the wonderful garden was a very cunning creature. He was a serpent who wanted only to cause trouble. I presume this is the serpent, this red eye in the dark. Kinda cool. Credit to this, aside from our disagreements so far, it calls him the serpent, not Satan. 10 points. And again, why did God create a sneaky serpent that only wanted to cause trouble? So many questions. One day, he sidled up to Eve and whispered in her ear. God didn't really mean what he said about that tree, the serpent said. If you eat the fruit, you will be very clever. As clever as God, in fact. It's telling the truth. The serpent never lied. Serpent never lied. Satan never lied. Very important facts in the Bible. Hail Satan. Eve listened to the serpent and looked at the special fruit. She thought for a moment, then took a great big bite. What person ever could be told that that right there is the... I'm pointing. That right there is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Eat from it and you will become like your special friend God. Who's not going to eat that? Of course you would. Of course you would. Remember, God knows everything, so presumably he knew that exactly this was going to happen and did nothing to stop it. Even though, in Genesis, God clearly doesn't know what's going on. Did I show you the picture? Here you go. She's having a big old bite. She's having a big tasty bite. She loves it. And then there's the serpent again. I have a feeling that they've done just an eye in a bush because they were like, what does it look like? We don't want to make it up. Because obviously at this point, the serpent presumably has legs and arms and doesn't crawl on the ground because that's God's punishment for it later. So I just do a creepy eye in the dark. Suddenly, Eve knew she had disobeyed God because now she has the knowledge of good and evil. She didn't even know what disobeying God was before. How could she possibly have been... How could all people have been punished for that moment? It's preposterous. God's a right arsehole. Suddenly, Eve knew she had disobeyed God, but she still rushed over to Adam and offered him the fruit too. He gulped a piece down and blinked hard. Very important that we know that he blinked hard. That is important Genesis facts. Adam blinked hard. I don't think we should have done this, says Adam. All of a sudden, Adam and Eve began to feel very guilty. They were ashamed that they had not listened to God. Just to repeat, because before they did that, they didn't know what that was. They didn't know shame. They didn't know disobeying God. They didn't know that eating the fruit would be bad because they didn't have any knowledge of doing bad things. So how can you possibly punish them for it? Hastily, they ran to the bushes and tried to hide. It's always about finding Jesus, about finding God. Let God find you. Pick a good hiding spot and see if he comes. They were worried that God might see them and know they had eaten the fruit. Adam and Eve were very scared. At this point, God's been their special friend, he's given them everything, and just told them not to do this one thing. Why are they afraid? They shouldn't be afraid because God's never demonstrated any reason to be afraid. Unless it's just inherently obvious that he is a terrifying, jealous, angry tyrant. All loving God, they are scared. Here they are, hiding in the bush. Bless them. I love looking at them. I love the picture of them hiding in the bush. It's really funny. And all the animals are just like, what are Adam and Eve doing right now? When God came to the garden at the end of the day, he was out doing his chores. He was down the supermarket. He was thinking of going to the pub in the evening, but he decided to come back to the garden and check on Adam and Eve instead. It's like, I feel like they've been up to something. When God came to the garden at the end of the day, the end of the day, I don't know why that makes me laugh so much, he called out for his two special friends. God already knew that both Adam and Eve had disobeyed him by eating the fruit from the special tree. Of course he did. He's supposed to know everything. He knew that they would when he put the tree there. By the way, this God already knew. It's not like that in Genesis. God is walking around like an idiot, like, Adam, hey, what's going on? What's happening here? Hey, like he's just wandering around, not knowing what's up. Adam spoke timidly from behind a bush. We were hiding from you, he stammered. We were ashamed because we had no clothes on. The book said they were scared of God because they'd eaten the fruit and disobeyed him. Now apparently they were hiding because they were ashamed of not having clothes. How do they know what clothes are? Clothes haven't been invented yet. We were ashamed because we had no clothes on. Who told you about needing clothes? Said God. You're supposed to be my special naked friends. You shouldn't be worrying about clothes. Who ruined this for me? Have you eaten the fruit I told you not to eat? Here they are, looking absolutely fucking terrified, as they should be, of their horrifying evil deity that is about to punish them and all humanity forever. Adam and Eve could say nothing at first. Then Eve said in a trembling voice, "The serpent made me do it." God turned to the serpent that he created to be exactly how it is, cunning and evil. He turned to the serpent. "You will be punished," he said. "You will be hated by everyone," not true, "and from now on you will have to crawl on the ground." So, I support the UK charity Frog Life. Shout out, Frog Life, amazing charity, they do some sick work. And so I get to go to little online events about herping and finding reptiles and amphibians and things like that. Have you met snake people? People love snakes. Hated by everyone? Nonsense. "You will be hated by everyone, and from now on you will have to crawl on the ground." And there he is, in his final form, looking real pissed off. Which you would, wouldn't you? I mean, God made you this way. He already knew that you were gonna do it, and then he punishes you for all eternity. You'd be well fucked off. Then God turned to Adam and Eve. They had spoiled his garden. Spoiled the garden? How had they spoiled his garden? They'd not done anything to the garden. They were looking after it. It was lovely. All the animals are fine. They just know that they're naked now. It's all about God's secret sexy experience. The snake gave them consent, if nothing else. They had spoiled his garden, and he had no choice but to send them away. He had no choice. Omnipotent, omniscient God already knew this was going to happen, has the power to literally create life and the universe. He has no choice but to send them away. Lie. Okay, now you know, this is, like, I'm God. This is how I'm going to do it. I've just made Adam and Eve, they're looking after my garden. I'm like, hey, you're my special friends. Okay, now you know about good and evil. I wanted you to be pure. I didn't want you to know about that stuff because you have to deal with all this clothes and shit. I don't like clothes personally. I wish we didn't have to wear them, but especially my special friends, I wish they didn't have to wear clothes. At least the animals are still naked. Anyway, now you know what good and evil is. Try and be good. Try and avoid evil. Get back to work in the garden. Why did he have to send them away? Of course he didn't. God can do whatever he wants. God knew all this was going to happen. He's writing a soap opera. From now on, life would be difficult. God made some clothes for Adam and Eve. God made them. He's into textiles in his spare time. He loves a bit of tailoring, does God. Although I can't say I'm loving the outfits he made. God made some clothes for Adam and Eve, and they left the beautiful place that God had given them. God placed an angel with a flaming sword to guard the gate, and Adam and Eve went sadly on their way. Bye guys, sorry. Even though you literally didn't know what being bad was and you couldn't possibly have helped it, and I knew that this was all going to happen and could have stepped in to warn you or just not punished you. That's how it be. See you later, you're not my special friends anymore. I should not have disobeyed God, said Eve, sadly. I did it too, said Adam. It was a big mistake. But all was not lost. God already had a plan for making things all right again. Well, he had a plan for making things go wrong in the first place, didn't he? Isn't it all God's plan? He would help all people find their way back to him, as long as they wanted to find him. Then why didn't he just go and see Adam and Eve and be like, here's what you need to do? It would take a long time, but God is very patient. Yeah, they're off into the sunset to live their brutal wasteland existence, apart from God. Hey, this is a 1995 first edition of this book. That's the year I was born. There is no coincidence, only God. Quick book review. If I was a Christian parent, I'd be annoyed at the parts that are just sort of wrong. There's no reason you can't say that God made the garden and Adam first and then created Eve. There's no reason, like, it's not particularly more child-friendly to get the order incorrect, so I don't know why it's like that. Big shout out to the frog on the opening image. That's probably my favourite bit. I love the art. It's pretty. Some of it's really funny. This little bird's face. There's loads of stuff like that. That is really nice. Morally, luckily there's not a huge kind of moral inference from here. Obviously it kind of implies that people are all now inherently sinful, but at least it sort of just is about the wrong that Adam and Eve did, rather than strictly saying, hey kids reading this is why you're going to hell for being a sinner. At least it's not that. 2 out of 10. Most of that 2 is because of the art. Thank you once again to ST. If you're still here, I'm so sorry it took so long to get to this. I really, really loved the letter, and the book was great fun. I hope you enjoyed that too. If you ever want to send anything to my PO box, whether it's books to check out, weird Christian DVDs, just a letter to say hi, it's in the description. Go for it, it makes me very happy when I get something delivered. I hope you now better understand the story of Adam and Eve. Before we go, I would like to give a huge thank you and a big shout out to my giant chickens over on Patreon. Aaron Speer, Amalgam of Neuroses, Amber, Chantale, Chris Simpson, Connie Wright, Connla Chicken Maximus Lyons, goddammit Connla, Curious Capybara, Danny, Dennis Gibbons, Elle, Faye Gregory, Fulcrum, Gaming Ridge, Henry Curtis, Izzy, Jason Metcalf, Joe Rowe, Chris Canvaga, I really hope I'm pronouncing everybody's name correctly, Lizzie Gale, Lynn Dobbs, Mattus McChicken Nuggetus, Miles Tegg, Moggeringa, Mr. Creosote, Nerd Fiction, Nick Hook, Ninja Red, Sarah Shavy, Simping on Emma Thorne, Seriously, Tank Low, The Enchanter formerly known as Tim, The Myth Vision Podcast, and Tracy O'Rourke. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for all your support. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, do consider leaving a like, drop your thoughts down below. Were you fed any weird religious propaganda when you were a kid? Let me know, I want to hear about it. Do please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Check out my gaming channel, come and hang out on my Twitch. All of my socials and things are in the description below. Thank you so much once again for watching. I hope you have a very lovely week, and I will see you really soon.